Mike the Bee, theme music. Mike the Bee, theme music. You never know where he's gonna be. He's just gonna be Mike the Bee, theme music. Hello, my little flowers. Tonight we have a special edition. We are going to rate all 10 of the houses at Halloween Horror Nights this year, along with the 5 scare zones that are also included in the event this year. So I have with me my partner, Will, and he's going to rate his houses and scare zones, and I'm going to do the same. We're going to do this together and see if we agree, disagree, etc., etc. So I think we will start with how about the scare zones first?
Okay.
And then we can do the houses.
Mine are opinions, his are facts. So number 5.
That's a fact. Before we even start that,
okay.
I do want to say there's probably going to be some spoilers during all this.
Oh.
So if you have not been and you want to go, because there's a few weeks left, there will probably be some spoilers when we're talking about the different scare zones and houses.
That's right.
So, okay. So, yeah.
So we're going to start with my number 5, which is the Horrors of Halloween. This is the scare zone in front of the Plaza of the Stars. This is the Pumpkin Lord. The spirit of Halloween has taken over this year's event, summoning hordes of fiendish creatures. Terror has taken root. It's number 5 for me because it's like a farting pumpkin man.
So he's the Pumpkin Lord, and I'm just gonna go ahead and say I do agree. My number 5 for me in the scare zone category is the Horrors of Halloween. So the Pumpkin Lord is the icon this year. Every year there's an icon for Horror Nights. This year it is the Pumpkin Lord.
I just want to say he's the farting Pumpkin Lord.
Well, he does.
And he exaggerates the fact that he's farting. It you just got to go see it.
Right.
Go see it.
So, well, for me, the reason why it's also at the bottom as far as the scare zones are concerned is this scare zone is usually very short, and it's usually like the introduction to the event. So if you're getting there and you're coming through, it's usually the first thing you see. So this year they have like the Pumpkin Lord. He's kind of out in front. He's the first and usually the last thing you see before you enter and exit the event. But I don't know, all the times I've been through the scare zone, it's been very empty. Like there really hasn't been any scare actors. I don't know if it's set up that way, like it's supposed to be like that this year.
Well, and people really aren't hanging out. That's one of the things that I noticed in the last couple of years is that very first, like right there in the Plaza of the Stars, that's where people tend to kind of hang out because it is the welcome to Horror Nights. And, like in the past, you've seen people hanging out and enjoying, Halloween Horror Nights in the entrance. And yeah, they're flocking around him because it's such a spectacle and an obnoxious spectacle at that. But after that, like the actual zone, because he's like right in front of the zone itself is very dead.
Number 4?
So my number 4 is Conjure the Dark. It's the San Francisco scare zone. On the first All Hallows Eve, an evil sorceress called forth monstrosities from dark dimensions. Now your blood will fuel them. This is probably the biggest flop this year. It's kind of, again, like gore for gore's sake, and I'm not a gore for gore's sake kind of person, and, I don't know. It's just not doing it for me.
Also, my number 4, I kind of had some high hopes for this scare zone just because they have a stage set up. They have the sorceress that conjures the dark. And so they have the various kind of like little shows throughout the evening dealing with the different characters and creatures that she conjures. And so, I don't know, like I felt like this probably would have been like a really good scare zone just because of the fact that, they're doing witchcraft like right in the middle of the scare zone. But I don't know, like every time we go by, which hasn't been much, but every time we go by, it seems like people are standing way far away from the stage and kind of let the production part happen. And for me, that also takes away from, I don't know, just how good this scare zone could have been. That and
The lip syncing.
the lip syncing.
The lip syncing
so
to the track is, I've seen better at a drag show.
It's so bad.
Yeah.
It's so bad. And I mean, it's just so bad. It's not even like a cheesy, corny, funny bad. Like, it's just bad. So yeah, definitely number 4 for both of us, apparently. All right, so that brings us to our number 3 scare zone. What is yours?
So I kind of have like a neck and neck tie for number 3/2, if you will. I mean, this could go in any order, but I'm just going to give it the way I have it. So I just put it in the number 3 spot, which is Graveyard. This is the deadly unrest in the Hollywood section. On All Hallows Eve, a dark storm descends upon a cemetery and awakens long dead spirits. No one living can escape them. I think I will call this my number 3 because it's very dark in that area this year, and I really wish there'd be, I mean, not a lot of light. Like, we've got a lot of light because we're doing this outside, so we need the light for us. But just a little bit more maybe black light or something that kind of accents the characters. The characters are really well done this year in that zone. There's a lot of really good makeup artists that I guess they've come out to do this zone, but it's just so dark. I think it really kind of falls a little flat, but it is a good scare zone. It is, in my opinion, way better than Conjure the Dark and Horrors of Halloween. So this is a solid 3 for me.
Also my number 3. So yeah, basically the same thing what Will was saying. It's a very dark scare zone, and I get it. You're supposed to be in the graveyard. It's at night. The unrests are unresting. But I don't know. I mean, there's some really good costumes. There's some like really good set pieces. I was so excited for this scare zone because this is the one I saw come to life the most before the event even started. So I was actually really excited for this scare zone just because the set pieces are so well done. Like, if you can look at them during the day, you can see all the detail and all the time they took making these set pieces.
There's this one woman who just stands there. She doesn't really move or anything. She just stands there, and then she'll just kind of move her head or something. The fact that she just moves is really creepy. And one of the things, like, he just said something that's important that would put this at number 2 is, like he said, when we go there for like the early scare or I can't remember what the stay and scream. We get there at like 5:00 for stay and scream. They're starting to open up and have that scare zone active. So when it's still light or twilight, it is a beautiful, like, the set's beautiful. They've really put a lot of effort into it, but it's just that when it gets dark is when it falls from the number 2 to number 3 position. So he's absolutely right. Like, they did such a good job on it this year. It just kind of fizzles out as it gets dark, and I get it. It's a scare zone. It's supposed to be dark, but I think that's why it's my number 3. Is that when it gets dark, you just lose it.
So number 2 scare zone. What is yours?
So the number 2 this year is for me is the Scarecrow, which is cursed soil in Central Park. At an abandoned farm, scarecrows have risen from the crust of the earth to hunt you and seek revenge. They'll harvest your screams. So I was taking video of the pig man or the pig head, or he's somebody that shows up in a scare zone every year, right? And, we have 3 dogs, and, sometimes they'll come up to you with a wet nose, or sometimes they'll come up to you with a dry nose. And I was taking video of him because Mike wanted more video of the pig man. And as he was coming up, like, this is just the detail they put in the makeup. Is as he was coming up, that pig man had a wet nose, and you could see it in the makeup that he had a wet nose. He came all the way up and was oinking on the camera and left like wet on my camera. Like, it's just that well done, and it really is very creepy. The tall scarecrows, when they reach out to grab you, you really feel like they're gonna grab you. It's probably one of the best done.
My number 2 is also the Scarecrow.
So, this was not planned, by the way. This was not planned.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is. So it's funny because to me, the scare zone is almost as dark as the graveyard scare zone. There's been a few times we've been through this particular scare zone, and it seems like the lighting's been a little better on like certain evenings and not quite so good on certain evenings. So maybe that's just a technical issue. I mean, I don't know. But when it's on, and you can see things like very well. And they're not like super bright, but they're lit just enough that you can see the detail. You can see, like the scarecrows, and you can see what needs to be seen. Between the lighting, the fog, this particular area is usually one of my favorite areas anyway. It's the pathway that kind of runs by like the Central Park portion of Universal Studios Florida. So it's already kind of a narrow walkway. There's the trees. So there's a lot that's already there, that's already kind of set up to do like a really, really good scare zone. And I think they really did a good job this year. I know there's like the Corn Man. He's apparently all over social media. Like I think he has his own hashtag and stuff. It's kind of funny. But to me, yeah, the Pig Man is the winner in this scare zone. Like he is like the front runner for me. Anyway, just also because he's right. Like he shows up somewhere kind of every year. So keep your eye out for the Pig Man if you end up going to Horror Nights here in Orlando. All right, so that brings us to our number one pick for the scare zone this year, Halloween Horror Nights 31.
It's a unanimous decision. Is the Sweet Revenge in the New York section. The sweets from Major Sweets Candy Company have turned children into crazed killers. This Halloween, it's all trick, no treat, and total mayhem. So, I actually noticed something this year that was kind of fun for me, and it's probably going to shock Mike that as to why like it's kind of one of my favorites, is because this is kind of like merging a little bit of Disney with a little bit of Universal. The Grimm story tales are not owned by Disney, but there are some story tales, the Grimm story tales, that are they kind of cross over, and this is definitely one of them that kind of crosses over, because there's a float right in the middle of this that's 3 witches, and when the book opens up, it talks about a witch giving a princess a poisoned apple, and it's basically the story of Snow White. Mm-hmm. So it's like, wait a minute, if you have to take a double take and really pay attention, but it's like, wait a minute, Snow White is in Halloween Horror Nights 31 this year. Not only that, but there's a crying baby. There's a kid on a big tricycle. The lip syncing with the actors is a lot better in this section. When you get to see the mayor come through, like he's on point. There's a lot going on in this scare zone. It's just very well done this year, and so I like the story behind it. It's really kind of cute.
My number one is also the Sweet Revenge scare zone. So I have to say, usually, because the scare zone in the New York section usually is not my favorite, just because it's a huge section. The street seems to be a lot wider in that section as well. So it always seems like it's very difficult for them to fill the space with enough scare actors, props, etc., to really make it feel like a scare zone, especially if they're going with the theme, or they're trying to like fill it in with something. And this year, I think they finally figured it out. So Major Sweets, he is like a sponsor at this carnival, and he has poisoned the candy. He is a very, very interesting character. But you will find him in the scare zone if you happen to go, or if you've already been, walking around trying to give a piece of chocolate. But be careful, there's a little something, not only in it, but also behind it if you look close enough.
That's right.
But yeah, like the children that are in the scare zone, the trick-or-treaters, The costumes are very creative this year. Some of them are like the throwback, like it looks like mom and dad helped them make their costume this year. The other ones are like, the old timey plastic store bought costumes. And they're kids. So there's the one with the tricycle. There's one pulling her boyfriend, I think, in the like the radio flyer wagon. There's all kinds of just like really memorable characters in this zone.
There's literally one with nothing but a bag on her head. Like you remember how some of us may not have grown up with a whole bunch of money, so like we had to make our own costumes and literally take like a paper grocery bag, stick it on your head, cut out the eyes, and that's your Halloween costume. And there's a kid, and he is the creepiest, or she is the creepiest kid, because it's just a little baghead kid running around. It's just the best.
Okay, well then story time. So when I was younger, I have 4 other siblings. And so, money was not, as available at that time for our family. So Halloween time, my mother was like, basically be creative. So there was one year, like, none of us could really think of anything to do, because it was basically we had to find our own clothes and stuff, and she would buy like 1 pack of makeup so we could do makeup or whatever. So the one year we were just all like at a loss. We were like, we don't know what to do. So she's like, don't worry, I got it. So she took black trash bags, cut a hole for our face and holes for our arms. We wore, remember we had the big white tube socks that went like way up above your knees. So we all had those, our tennis shoes. We were all California Raisins. For those who know and remember who the California Raisins are. So yeah, so talk about throwback to Halloween past and probably Halloween present for some people. But yeah, so this scare zone, awesome job. It also ties in with the tribute store this year, which I thought was a very good idea on Universal's part, because usually the tribute store is like right in the middle of this particular scare zone area, and it's like its own theme, its own thing entirely, but the entrance and exit is right there in the middle of a scare zone. So you kind of, I don't know, like, and it's a hard break. So like in amusement parks, theme parks, most of them try to do what they call like, the soft break, where you go from one land to the next, one theme to the next. And there's like trees or a tunnel or something to bring you from one theme to the other. But this year, it's part of the scare zone. It's supposed to be like a fun carnival ride. They took the old theater, they turned it into this carnival ride. That's the tribute store. Really, really well done. Like the whole area, it's just my favorite. Like it's my absolute favorite. All right, so now it's time to do the houses. There's 10 houses this year. And so, yeah, we're going to start at the bottom and work our way to the top. And like the last time, we're going to see if we agree or disagree. Last time we were 5 for 5. We agreed on every single one of the scare zones. So we're going to see how we do with the houses. So what's your number 10?
So my number 10 is Hell Block Horror on Soundstage 23. Enter a prison where savage inmates are monstrous creatures. If they break free from their cells, it's a death sentence for everyone. So to me, Hell Block Horror just kind of feels like it's like gore for gore's sake. I'm just not into gore. So this is kind of like my least favorite house, because it seems like the gore overpowers any kind of story that might be there. The story doesn't come through. You're just walking through a prison with, oh, look, something ate that prisoner. Oh, look, something ate that prisoner. Oh, look, there's guts hanging from the ceiling and something ate that prisoner. It's a no for me.
So my number 10 is also the Hell Block Horror. And it wasn't so much because of the gore. Like, I don't mind the gore. I don't. For me, it's when I go into these houses, it's all about the story, the setting, and if I can see everything and kind of follow everything. This particular one is kind of like it's not an IP house. So it's kind of an original house. So they came up with the story, they put it together, all that good stuff. But yeah, like I kind of walk in and I get it. It's a prison. Spoilers, whatever. It's a prison, and there's a lot of chaos going on. There are these monsters. They're breaking out. They're killing people, eating people, and all kinds of craziness is happening. And I got that part, but it's like I don't know. It's almost like there's too much going on at some points.
Yeah.
And then there's I believe it's at the end. There's like a billion strobe lights all at the same time. And I get it. They're trying to set up like that whole like disoriented feeling and that sort of thing. But I don't know. Like I feel like it's too much for too long. And yeah, like you said, like the story gets lost. Like it was a no for me.
So my number 9 house this year is The Weeknd, After Hours Nightmare. Second Parade Warehouse is the location for this one. Prepare to enter the macabre mind of The Weeknd in this haunted house as he stalks your squad through the surreal nightmare of his after-hours music. A slasher carving a smile at the otherworldly rave. Bandaged maniacs performing extreme plastic surgery, a grotesque mannequin masquerade. His nightmare is now yours. So, unless you've seen the music videos for the album that this is based on, kind of based around, because if you listen to the album in order and you watch the music videos in order, I've been told that it doesn't flow through that. Honestly, when I walked in there, I felt like I needed to be filming a TikTok. Like,
oh yeah, because
dun dun da da dun 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 da da dun da da da. No, it just.
My number 9 is Fiesta de Chupacabras.
So Fiesta de Chupacabras is in Soundstage number 24. You visit a Latin American village where the legend of the creature Chupacabras is celebrated with a colorful fiesta. And the streets are lined with the crimson blood of tourists like you and your amigos.
So the reason why this is my number 9 is basically because, I don't know, like it just didn't feel like a haunted house to me. I mean, I liked the story. I liked the setting because it is. It's like you're going through the streets of the village, and it was really, really well done. And then there's the villagers, and they have their mask on because they're, it's the fiesta. There are the chupacabras that do appear, which are they weren't like, I don't know, they were okay. They were okay. I saw one goat, because he sucks the lives, sucks the blood out of the lamb. Why do I keep saying lamb? Out of the goat. He sucks the blood out of the goat. I don't know. It was a fun house to go through with the set. It just wasn't. I don't know. It's another no for me. That's all I gotta say. All right, so we're on number 8.
Number 8. So my number 8 is Descendants of Destruction, which is in the Sprung Tent number 1. Careful not to leave any of your Scream Squad behind as you descend the subway tunnels of a deserted New York. Lurking in the dark are hungry mutants looking to feast on the last remnants of humanity. So, like, my problem with this one is the house feels like they didn't have any real direction, or the idea started to kind of fall apart. Like, originally you're in like subway cars, and then it just kind of like there's no real story going through. It just kind of falls apart for me. I have a note here that says it was just a confusion of Subway meets Mad Max. It's just okay, like, but tell me more. Show me, like, like he said with his number 9. I want to see a story go through, and this just didn't feel story to me.
So my number 8 is The Horrors of Blumhouse.
So the Horrors of Blumhouse is in the Fast and Furious location. Thank you, God, because that ride sucks. You step inside a new double feature of Blumhouse horror. Your Scream Squad will find yourselves trapped between a frantic teen and the ruthless serial killer she swapped bodies with in the movie Freaky. Then you'll try to make a desperate escape from the dark basement of the Grabber before you become his latest victim in the terrifying movie The Black Phone.
Yeah, so the reason why this is number 8 for me is I enjoyed both of these movies by Blumhouse. I thought they were really good. Freaky, of course, is in like the traditional Blumhouse style that we've all come to know, which is like campy horror. You know, there's a little fun, a little bit, you know, comedy, funny, whatever, but there's also the horror part. Some of it's a little gory, but the campiness, I think, takes the horror of the goriness away a little bit. The first part of the house, it was done very well. Like, there was a good bit of the story that was told. The scenes, you know, you could really make out what was going on. So if you had not seen the movie, you could still kind of follow along in the house. So it's also separated into 2 separate houses. Like, it's not just going from one to the other. It's literally you leave one house, you go into the other house. The second half is the Black Phone. Again, I really enjoyed this movie. It was kind of a psychotic thriller, whatever they call that. But I don't know. Like, it felt so short and flat for me, because like there was a lot of like you saw a lot of the phones. You know, there was the room with the boy, and there was a few of the other characters that kind of made appearances, but it just felt like they could have added so much more into this house. But it felt like they ran out of space, they ran out of time. I don't know what the issue was. Maybe that's just the idea they came up with to tell the story of that movie. But if you hadn't seen the movie, you would really have no idea what was going on. Like, you just be like, there's a lot of phones, and then there's like this boy in a room, and then this guy in a mask. Like, but what does it mean? So yeah, like, it just they could have did so much more with this house, and they didn't. So the first part, if I had to rate it, like, I really liked the first part. I really, really did. But the second part with the Black Phone is what kind of like made me kind of throw it way down on the bottom of my list. All right, number 7.
Number 7. So we've already talked about the house already, because it's not in the same spot for both of us. But my number 7 was the Fiesta de Chupacabras, and my reason behind it is it's kind of a letdown. But there were villagers dressed as Chupacabra in Chupacabra outfits galore in this house. There was actual, like, imagined chupacabras, because the chupacabra is a fictitious thing. It's not like a real thing. But I want to say there was 2, like, what looked like chupacabras, because the villagers were dressed as chupacabras. So this was like the real bear, dog, overgrown rat thing. with fangs. So the issue that I had with this, and Mike kind of said it, he's like, he saw one goat, is, you know, I only saw one goat, just like him. And the chupacabra is also known as the goat sucker. So I wanted more goats. Like, you know, if it's going to be, you know, like, so you see a goat here, you see a goat there, you see a goat here. Now a person is drained of blood, and that's why they call it the goat suckers. The goats would be found without blood in them, and, you know, and it's the chupacabra. Well, if they're celebrating the chupacabra, then, like, have what the chupacabra is, like, there for is goats. And it just, so it seemed like they were trying really well. They tried to make a festival, kind of like Day of the Dead, so it's Festival of Chupacabra, but it just kind of fell flat for me.
So my number 7 was The Weeknd, and Will's already talked about the description of The Weeknd. So I'm not a huge fan of The Weeknd music. Obviously, everybody knows the Blinding Light song that blew up over TikTok and everybody doing the dance. So I know that song for sure. But I did do some research. I did watch all the videos from the After Hours album. And there's a lot of scenes and elements from these videos in this house. The problem is, because I even watched them in the order, because somebody put them in the order, like you have to watch them in this order for the story to make sense with the videos. So I did that. I watched all the videos, and they are creepy and twisted, and what the hell is wrong with you? But they still are not in order in this house. So for me, it's basically a big advertisement for his album. And the visuals are kind of neat and, that sort of thing, but they're not in the order. They don't tell the story correctly. And if you have not seen the videos, if you don't know The Weeknd and his music, you're not going to get this house. So, yeah. So for me, my number 7 is The Weeknd because I do kind of enjoy the music and the house. For me, the visuals were pretty good. It was lit really well. It felt like I was in a music video, a twisted music video, but I was in a music video. But it just wasn't, it still wasn't as good as it probably could have been.
So my number 6 is Bugs Eaten Alive. This is in Sprung Tent 2. While touring a 1950s home of the future, you'll be surrounded by the slime of bugs everywhere as hordes of many-legged terrors descend upon you and your scream squad. You'll be dropping like flies. So I don't like blood and gore, but I hate bugs. I mean, cockroaches. If you're looking for total grossness, then look no further. Cockroaches are just ew to me, and this house had my skin crawling, and I mean it for the pun intended. It's just that's why it's a good solid 6 for me. It was just I could just hear the only thing that could have made this house better is as you walked into the rooms with all the bugs, if they would have cut plastic bottles apart and you were crunching the plastic bottles to give it that crunching on bug sound. Oh yeah. But yeah, number 6 for me is Bugs.
My number 6 was actually Halloween.
Halloween is on soundstage number 23. Gather your friends and visit Haddonfield, Illinois, where Michael Myers is about to don his mask and embark on his first brutal spree. Silent, merciless, relentless. He's the embodiment of pure evil. You don't want to go alone as you go back to where it all began. This year, step into the original 1978 horror classic, Halloween.
So, Halloween for me is my number 6. Basically because, I don't know, Halloween at Horror Nights has been done over and over and over and over again. They've been the different movies, and there's been a billion of them, like all the other franchises. I think this year, so this is based after the first movie, the very first Halloween. I think the reason why they did that is because this year the Halloween Ends is supposed to be coming out, which is supposed to be the absolute final chapter of the Halloween series. I mean, we'll see what happens with all that. But I don't know, I feel like Halloween it's been played out. It's been done so many times, so many different ways, but it's all kind of still the same. It's Michael, and he's got his blade, and he's popping out of places. I will say this house was done well. It's done really, really well. There's a lot of, very interesting scares. There's, is a misguided or misdirection scare that I thought was done really well. That was my favorite part of this house. But although it was done really well, and it is a good house, I just feel like they need to have Halloween needs to end, like the movie that's coming out this year, because it's been done over and over and over again,
beating a dead horse,
and he's dead. So we are halfway there. This is number 5.
Top 5. So my number 5 is Spirits of the Coven on Soundstage 22. A coven of beautiful flapper witches will lure you into their 1920s speakeasy, reveal their haggish true form, and turn your scream squad into a witch's brew. They'll be cackling, you'll be screaming. You go into a speakeasy, and it's literally Flapper Girl madness after that. You start it from start to finish. It's Flapper Girl here, Flapper Girl there. A lot of them are cackling as witches, and they're covering their face with with like the old fans that you see grandma in church using. But yeah, it was really well done. I actually kind of like the Roaring Twenties as an era and as a genre, with the way the flapper dresses were designed and stuff. It was really fun for me. I you could tell the story. Mike says he saw a couple of actual witches. I didn't see witches, but the flapper girls cackling was enough for me. It was a good story. That's why it's a good solid 5 for me.
My number 5 was actually the Universal Monsters, the Legends Collide house.
So, Universal Monsters Legends Collide is in Parade Warehouse. If you thought one Universal Monster was scary, how about 3? Better summon your Scream Squad, because you're about to get caught in the middle of an epic battle between the Wolfman, Dracula, and the Mummy. Together, for the first time ever, their mission to find the amulet that will break their curse, and they'll destroy anyone who gets in their way.
So, yeah. So this is my number 5. And again, I think the reason why it's in the middle, obviously, is because I love the Universal Monsters. I love the classic monsters. They're classics for a reason, because they are classic. But I don't know, like, I feel like they're also a little played out. So the monsters have been played out, and I know it's Universal. That is their IP. It's classic. People love them. I love them, but I still feel like they're played out. And it's like, okay, you can bring them back, but don't bring them back as often. Like, maybe have a few other houses that are not IP. But so as far as this house is concerned, I did enjoy the house. I'm gonna say that I did enjoy the house. You are in the mummy's territory. You enter into the mummy's tomb, and then the story kind of takes off from there. I will say that the other reason why it's kind of low on the totem pole for me is you're in the mummy's tomb, so there's a lot of mummies. There's so many mummies that come out in this house. I only saw, I think, 1 Wolfman and 2 Draculas. There's probably more. I don't know. Like I said, every time you go through a house, you can get a different experience. But for me, the run through we did, that's what I got. So it was good. Probably could have been a little bit better, but it's just, I don't know. The Universal Monsters need to be put to rest for a little bit, and then probably brought out maybe a few years down the road. Ooh, number 4.
Number 4. So my number 4 is The Horrors of Blumhouse, which we've already discussed. I gave it my number 4 because Freaky was very well done. Like Mike already talked about, it is separated into 2 houses. So you have Freaky at the beginning, and then you have the Black Phone at the end. So I like it when they go and really tell a story, and you basically walked through the movie of Freaky in the Freaky house. Like from the beginning to end, you relived the movie. The problem, the only reason why it's number 4 and it's not higher is I also really enjoyed the Black Phone, and it really kind of felt like they ran out of time. Like they did the Freaky house first, and then the Black Phone was kind of an afterthought. Where so there was a kid in we're gonna do spoilers, but there's a kid in a dungeon with the phone, and he's talking to other kids that have been kidnapped on the phone, and so they could have done like a room with a different kid, and another room with a different kid, and another room with a different kid. But it literally was like hallway phone, hallway phone, hallway phone. You're like, okay, there's more to the movie than just the phone. So that's why I give it my number 4. I think it was a very well done house in the beginning. It kind of piddled out at the end, but overall, like, I liked the theming and the flow.
So my number 4 is one we've already talked about as well. It is Bugs Eaten Alive. I actually enjoyed this house quite a bit. I'm not a big bug person like most people. But I don't know. Like, I didn't get the squeamish feeling that most people got in this house. For me, because so the story for this house is you're going into a house of the future, but it's, set in like the 50s, 60s era. And so they have this new contraption, and it's supposed to help you, like, it air conditions your house, it does all this crazy stuff, and one of the settings is it gets rid of the bugs. And so it's got different settings on there, and you can set it to the bug you're trying to get rid of, that sort of thing. Well, obviously, in Horror Nights fashion, something goes wrong, and it actually ends up kind of mutating these bugs. And so, there's giant bugs, there's humanoid bugs. There's all kinds of craziness going on. There are some parts where there are actual live bugs in this house. They are kind of, kept in a protective thing. They're not crawling all over you. But that's, of course, plays on your fear if you have a fear of bugs. Because they're all over the walls, they're all over the place. There's little sensor things that make them feel like they're crawling on you. But, I don't know. I kind of got like a campy feeling from this house just because of the setup in the very beginning.
It was very campy.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it had like that old throwback to the 50s, 60s campiness, like new product, whatever, but it goes wrong. Like those old campy horror movies, commercials, horror movies. Yeah. Like that's the feeling I got in this house. And I don't know, I just found it to be fun. Like for me, it was fun. So that's why it's my number 4.
And it was even more fun taking Gabby through it and watching her lose her mind at the spiders.
I thought I was going to lose the Loungefly bag. That's all I'm going to say.
All right, we're in top 3 now.
Top 3.
So my number 3 position this year actually is Universal Monsters. And the reason I chose Universal Monsters, yes, they're played out, they're overplayed. It's monster. Like Mike was saying, it's their IP. But one of the things I've noticed in houses past is it's, you're going through the house and there'll be like a room with one monster and there's no real story being told. You'll go through another room and it's a different monster, no story. Where this year for Universal Monsters, it was theme. It was, like we talked about it, in the description itself, it talks about like how they're looking for an amulet that'll break their curse. And you can see as you go in, they're going into the mummy's tomb and they're looking for this amulet. And it really kind of has the feeling that the mummy wants to break the mummy's curse. And so he's going to do whatever it takes at all costs. Spoiler here, he wins because he kills the Wolfman, he kills Dracula, and he breaks his curse. So that's why it was number 3 for me.
Well, I want to interject into his. So I've heard that apparently they switch out who wins at the end. So I don't know if that's true or not, and I don't know how that could be true. I mean, unless they flip. So, okay, spoiler. There's a wall where there's Dracula who is pierced to the heart with a stake, and there's smoke like he's dying, turning to ash, and then the mummy has the Wolfman's head severed. So he is the victor. Well, I mean, unless that wall flips around and there's somebody else, or I don't know. I don't know how true that is, but that's just what the rumor mill has been saying about this house.
Well, we've got a couple of weekends left. Maybe we should go and find out. So, what's your number 3?
So my number 3 was the Spirits of the Coven house. I really, really, really enjoyed that house. So I know I said it in another video, but when we first entered that house, I was expecting it to be more like the Scare Zone, Conjure the Dark, with the witches, the sorceresses and stuff kind of doing their witchcraft and that sort of thing. But when we entered and it was the 1920s, the speakeasy, that sort of set, I was a little confused in the very beginning because I didn't quite, I guess I didn't read up on the description of the house before we went in. So I was a little confused and I was like, are we in the right house? Did we make, the wrong turn at Albuquerque or something? So when we actually got into it, and then I kind of let that go and let myself get into the story, then I was like, okay, I get it now. It was really cool. The the sets and the costumes and stuff were really well done. They really put you in that time period and what you were going through. And then, so like I was telling Will, because he didn't see any of the actual like witches. And so I don't know if it's, I really don't know if it was the Flapper Girls that turned into witches or if these were just witches themselves. But they did like kind of pop out or show up, and they were like, you know, when you think of like an ugly, nasty looking witch, like that's what they look like. And so they did show up. I saw them anyway. And so that was fun. And then there's like kind of like the finale scene, and it's the witch kind of doing, I guess, like the major spell or whatever they're doing. But yeah, like I feel like this was really well done. I think the story is good. The sets, the costumes, everything for me was just good. So it's up there for me, my number 3. Okay, this is the first runner up. We do a number 2.
Number 2. So we already know where his falls, but my number 2 actually is Halloween, and I say this because, like, so we've seen one. God, was it? It was a Halloween that they did in the past where it was Michael Myers, and like every room you went into, he's like, "Rawr!" and you're just like, really, come on, like it's, oh, here he is again, here he is again, here he is again. Yeah. And what they did this year, which in my opinion made the room, or made the house so much better, is you actually are immersed into the 1978 horror classic. The reality of the Michael Myers character actually comes to life. You know, he's not all like "arr" in your face. It's like you go into one room and you're looking around, and so like it's a bed or whatever, and then there's like Michael Myers in the window. You're, oh Jesus, like it's creepy in a cerebral way for me. There's also a section in there, and there's a little spoiler, is you walk into a room of mirrors, or like the House of Mirrors kind of section, and they've got all these mannequins of Michael Myers in there, and so you don't know which one is the real Michael Myers, or which one's the scare actor and which one's a mannequin. And it looked so good. It was so well put together. I guess I'm being kind of a prop snob or a makeup snob this year, because that's what really did it for me and put it in my number 2, was like just the level of attention to detail that they had with all of these mannequins, and just like every Michael Myers looked like it's almost like they said you've got to be 6'2" to be Michael Myers this year, because they were all the same height. It looked like they basically was a cookie cutter. Every time they showed Michael Myers, he was exactly the same. And I don't think that they did that in the last Michael Myers or the last Halloween house that they did. So this was just really well done for me. So it's definitely my number 2.
Well, my number 2 was the Descendants of Destruction house. So I enjoyed this house because, so a couple years ago, they did a house, I want to say kind of similar to it. It was a train. I don't know if it was a subway. I think it was a train. Anyway, it got derailed. It was carrying all these, like, really, really hardcore criminals. And they obviously, get loose. And, then you're kind of going through and, trying to get away from these guys as they're, trying to attack you, kill you, all that good stuff. So this one, I don't know. Like, I don't know if it was the sets. I don't know what it was. Like, I just really, really liked this house. So, yeah, like you're in the subway in New York. I've never been to New York, so I can't say if it looked exactly like the subway in New York, but it felt like it to me from what I've seen in TV's a movie. But there, I don't know. Like, so there was one part I talked about before. You look and it's like, it's the whole length of the subway train. Like, and I don't know if it was the actual train or if it was, a special effect, but it was the entire length of the subway train. It was really, really cool. And then, of course, you go through the actual train itself, and, of course, there's the scare actors and all that good stuff. But I don't know. I felt like this house was put together, like, really well for me. I really enjoyed just the run through, the sets, the scare actors. Like, I just really enjoyed this house. So it's definitely up there for my number 2. So the time has come. It is time for our number 1 pick of the houses at Horror Nights 31. And we have come to a unanimous agreement on this one.
And we did not talk about this beforehand. He has his, I have mine. You've heard both of our explanations for number 2 through 10. So I'm curious. I kind of gave Mike a little sneak peek as to what I think about this. So I'm curious to hear what he has to say. But our number 1 is Dead Man's Pier, Winter's Wake. This is on Soundstage number 24. In a New England fishing village, undead fishermen emerge from the waves to seek their revenge. You and your Scream Squad may have escaped their hooks in the scare zone. Now they'll reel you in and drag you under. So this is my number 1 because, like, my notes say reality, special effects, set design and construction, and immersion into theme. I was in the Navy, and every time we pulled out of Norfolk and we pulled into Norfolk, it rained. And it, like, when you were going through this house, it was cold and there was like salt sea spray like hitting you. It felt so real. Like the set design and construction, like we were walking up onto a fishing boat and it looked like a Deadliest Catch fishing boat. We walked through and there was these old deep sea divers like on Men of Honor with Carl Brashear, how he had the helmet on, and like their special effects this year was just so good. You could see like almost a blacklight in there, and their faces were painted to stand out just everywhere you looked, and it's almost like they're herding you like cattle through these houses, and it felt like we were just pushed through this house way too fast because I wanted to slow down and like look at more of what's going on here and what's going on there. There was in the village before you walked into the bait shop, there was a woman who's got a violin, and it's a statue, and you see her again, and like it was just amazing. Like everything you saw, everywhere you looked, everything, like even the full moon in the house looked real. It was so well done. I really think Universal has set the bar for what they can do with the house, and I'm very interested to see how the houses go through in the future. Is like, if this is the way that they're going to start doing houses, oh my God, Halloween, I can't wait for next year.
So, like we said, this is also my number 1, and I totally agree with everything Will has already said. It was just really, really amazing. Like I don't know what else to say about this house. Overall, it was just amazing. Like he said, the sets, the sights, the sounds, like everything. You were completely immersed into the story from the very beginning. You enter this village, you see this statue. It's already set you up for the story, and then as you kind of go through and, you're encountering like these, I guess, sailor spirits, if you will. Like, I don't know, like everything was just so well done. The lighting is perfect. Like you see what you need to see, and you're directed to, the different frames of the story. But so like Will was pointing out, and I completely missed it, there's a part where the full boat is kind of revealed to you. That's where you see the actual spirit of this violin girl. There's a lighthouse. I did not see this lighthouse. So, yeah, definitely, like he said, they herd you through like cattle. There's hundreds, if not thousands of people at this event. They're all trying to get through all the different, houses and stuff. So they are pushing you through rather quickly. But I don't know. Like, I kind of agree with Will on this one. Like we need to slow down a little bit. I mean, obviously, you don't want to slow down too much because then they yell at you to keep up with the people in front of you and that sort of thing. But I don't know. Like I can't wait to go. We're going to do this house again for sure. We have a couple weeks left. We're gonna do this one for sure. But I really feel like I need to really try to look around a little bit more this time or next time we go to this house. But yeah, very extremely well done. Awesome house this year for Halloween Horror Nights 31. Totally agree.
My honorable mention, I think, would be the fact that, like Chucky tends to be a staple for Halloween Horror Nights as well. And there is a photo booth where you can go and get a picture in the Chucky dollhouse box. And there's a surprise there, and that's all I'm going to say.
That photo booth, by the way, is there because there is a series on Fox USA. There's a series on a channel with Chucky, so that's kind of why that is there. But he's right, Chucky has kind of become a staple at Horror Nights here in Orlando. So this was our countdown. Our
that's our top 10 for
our top 10, our top 5, our top 10. Well, there's only 5 and 10.
Our top 15 with Halloween Horror Nights.
These were our rankings for Halloween Horror Nights 31 this year, 2022. Let us know if you agree, disagree, either way, whatever in the comments. Otherwise, as always, I am Mike the Bee. You never know where I'm going to be. I'm just going to be. You be too. This is Will. I'll catch you guys later.
Bye.